Let's get it rolling, Lee.
Yep.
Yeah. So through our intro call, you know what the show is about, about telling your journey, your story, as Lee, trying to give us, tips of, the struggles, the hustling, where you've been, difficulties, success stories as well, and
Yep.
Looked on you, you've done well, you're doing great things, after going through all that tragic moments in your life, things, you looked up, you looked beyond that, walked past that, and you're doing great things, which is good, which is amazing, Lee. It's amazing. So on this show, Lee, we always start from the beginning, and start from the beginning, it's, telling us who Lee is and how was Lee growing up, how basically, how you started, how you started, because we want to build that story to know how Lee started and, stories as well, so let's just get past that, so tell us, who is Lee and how did Lee really start?
Yeah, so I was born in Bolton, north of England, and working class family. That kid, curious, disruptive. Recognised quite early that I was getting good grades at school, but I always had that bit of entrepreneurial edge and wanting to be a bit different. And I was that kid who was like, "Mum, do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need this?" No, I'm going to sell it on end of the street with my friend. Me and my friend used to put a picnic blanket down and try and sell stuff to like old ladies passing by. And ultimately, old ladies, they looked down on these kids and thought, we'll give them 50p for that. I'll be right. These little hustlers. But yeah, I kind of moved through secondary school, and I'm still always kind of trying to think, how can I do something a bit different? My parents are working hard. My mum's working 3 jobs just to, keep a roof over our heads and keep some food on the table. But I don't know if I want that life of working for other people. I don't know if I want that life of working an awful lot to just get by. So I started selling Amiga games back when I was a 12-year-old, putting adverts in magazines and then ordering orders out. And I'd found a paper shop near school where they sold sweets very close to the sell-by date for cheap. So I'd go, buy loads up, then take them all to school and sell them. And I was making some good money out of that until the head teacher pulled me aside and said, didn't have any hygiene certificates. I started carrying a bag bigger than my school bag, full of all my stock. Like he was saying, it's going to get to a point where you're going to be putting the canteen out of business. So yeah, you're not allowed to do it anymore. And that was what I was like as a kid. But I went through to college and still getting good grades, but not putting much effort in. And obviously I got to university. So I was the first one in my whole family to ever go. And that was a big deal, being that precedent, being that example. You can get to university and become, academic and go into further education if you want to. And my parents were really proud of that. And I studied international business psychology at Manchester. And it was interesting. I did units of language and communication, language of organizational psychology, comparative democracies, and things around business. So, personal aspects of management, finance and accounting, and, marketing, and some really interesting and diverse modules. And I really enjoyed the first year. I went out there, all of a sudden freedom, autonomy, doing whatever I wanted to do, joining societies and clubs and just living the life. In the second year, things start to get a little bit harder and actually start to struggle a little bit. So it gets to the point where in the middle of the second year, my lack of effort starts to catch up with me a little bit and things get a little bit harder. But not only that, a kind of series of events happened all around at the same time that started to cause me to struggle with my mental health. So I was really at this point having to start to think, right, I'm going to graduate in a few years. I need to know where I'm at. I need to know what man I'm going to become. Kind of looked into myself and just didn't find out the tools to express that. Didn't have the self-awareness, didn't have the ability to dig deep and say, who is Lee? Who is Lee as a man? How am I going to go and express that to the world? What impact and difference am I going to make? And I was asking those questions and I wasn't really getting an answer. So I was thinking to myself, right, okay, so let's look at society, young black men like me. Who can I model? Who can I use as a mentor, as a reference point? And I look out and I see rappers, I see sports stars, I see film actors, don't really see anyone like Lee, who's like a crazy mix of philosopher, scientist, and entrepreneur all rolled into one. There just wasn't that person out there. So I was like, maybe I should look at my past and realize I never really had a deep conversation with any of the men in my life. And that wasn't really a good reference point to go from. So I was going to have to try and get into the future. But I chalked in front of 300 other students delivering a presentation. That knocked my confidence. I had to work all the way through my degree to be able to afford it. Because I don't come from a rich background. I had to pay my way, my rent, my fees. And what happened is I was working hard there. I was working at university, but I was finding a lot of things hard. I was finding going to work hard, finding looking after myself, cooking, doing all the stuff that I needed to do to live hard. And all that just come together. I started to avoid things. So it started with avoiding going out and doing things. And it started to be avoiding university, then avoiding work, and then just avoiding people in general. And it got to the point where I isolated myself in my uni dorm for 2 weeks. Didn't contact anyone, just locked myself in there with a load of food and drink and just survived. And that ended up with my parents coming to the dorm, breaking the door down, taking me home. So that's the first time I faced challenge in my life. And I ultimately had to dig deep, but dug myself into such a deep hole, I couldn't get out. And for me, that was a defining moment because my parents took me home, took me out of the pressure. All of a sudden, didn't have the pressure of uni, the pressure of my work, the pressure to go and socialise, and really the pressure to be like, my life's travelling really quickly and I don't know where I'm going. So that gave me 6 months then. 6 months where I just stopped and looked back and realised what had happened, started to reflect and kind of take the emotion away and see what actually happened. I was struggling because I weren't working hard enough. Wasn't doing the work outside that I needed to do. I chalked in my presentation because I hadn't prepared. I'd just been ultimately complacent and just thought I'd be able to wing it on the day. Why was I struggling with my self-care? Because I wasn't putting a priority on looking after myself. And why was I struggling to express myself? Because I didn't have those tools. But that didn't stop me going and learning them. So I said, I'm going to take ownership over my development. I'm going to go and find out who I am. That's going to take action. I'm going to need to get out there, get uncomfortable, do new things, be proactive. And that's what I did, built my confidence up over those 6 months, went back to uni and graduated and showed that, you can go through hard times, but you can pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, build yourself up again and go and level up in life. And that's really what it's about. And then, unfortunately, that was in 2007. So this is great. I suddenly get on a grad scheme at the Co-op Bank in Manchester. I'm loving life. It's great. I've decided I want to become a financial advisor. Love helping people. Love patterns and statistics. I just love working with data and love helping people. What a great job. Get on a financial advisory pathway. 12 grand's worth of professional training included. I'm like rubbing my hands. I'm like, I've made it. Gonna go make some money. 6 months in, pulled the training. All that funding gone. Economic crash hits. Suddenly people above me packing the desks up. And I'm thinking, what is happening here? Because I don't have much of a safety net. Because I've only been working for 6 months and they don't pay graduates that well. A few weeks later, get made redundant, get pulled in. Manager says, you know what? You've grafted. You're one of the best around, but I'm going to lose my job next week. And I don't want to tell you losing yours.
Yeah, I bet you get gutted, man.
Yeah, and it's that kind of thing. Like, I'd started to think, yeah, this is where I'm going to go and develop, and they're going to invest in me, and I'm going to build a career.
They're going to train you as well.
Yeah, so that kind of that was great because it was validation. They said, we're going to fund your training. We're going to put you through this. We're going to give you this job and put you on this pathway. And then all of a sudden it just got whipped away. And I was annoyed. At first I was like, this is really bad timing. But what I actually did is I had to move home because I didn't have the money to keep renting where I was. So moving back home again, just like after my struggles at university, I was back in my mum and dad's back bedroom thinking, there's got to be more to life than this. And I'm like, right, so what's happened? I've lost my training. What does that mean for me? I'm going to take ownership of my training. So I'm now going to go and earn some money, pay for some courses, choose them, do them myself. No one can take them away once I've paid for them. And I kind of thought to myself, right, so I've just got myself a grad job, a job that a year ago, thousands of other graduates went for and really, really wanted. And yet it's just been taken away like that. Why don't I build a business? Then the only person who's going to make me redundant is me. The only person who's going to fire me is me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'll do that on my terms.
Yeah.
So I had built a plan for a video game wholesaling business back in university about a year before this happened, and taking it to a business advisor. And he said, you know what, Lee, it's a good plan, this. You know, figures are watertight, forecasts aren't inflated ridiculously. It looks like it's executable. Opportunity in the market. Yeah, you know, this is watertight, this is sound. It's got legs. But it's going to be a struggle for you to execute it because you're young, you're diverse, you've got an attitude problem, you've got rough edges. You need to go into industry and smooth those edges off a bit so that when you stood in those boardrooms with those 55-year-old guys, they're going to be like, yeah, he's got something about him, rather than, whoa, he's got a lot of energy and he's scaring us. And truth be told, as a student, you take that like, you know what, maybe he got a point. This guy's been successful in his own career, so maybe, just maybe, I should go into industry and smooth those edges. So that's what I did, only to be spat out the other end 6 months later with probably more jagged edges than smooth edges. And ultimately for me, that was a sign, because I'd been speaking to another successful entrepreneur at that point, and he'd said, you know what, Lee, nobody ever created a great business because they were like, they thought they could. They went and created an amazing business because they were thinking something different and made it happen. And he said, you know what? Don't take advice, don't conform. So that was it then. I'm like, I've got nothing to lose. I'm at home with my mum and dad, back at square one. But I'm struggling to get funding for this business. They don't like funding young people with crazy business ideas who go to business meetings and say, it's going to work, yeah? It's going to work. So I went and got a job, local government, efficiency management. And I used that first wage that I get, first wage packet, to say, I said to mum and dad, I'm paying you rent this month. I'm going to set up a business. So I used that first wage packet and set up my business. And bang, it goes massive. 6 figures in the first year, revenues. Jeez. And all of a sudden, I've taken over my parents' house with a business. And mum and dad are like, what are you doing? You turned our house into a depot. And I was like, right, yeah, don't worry, because I'm making good money. You know, 17 months in, buy my first house. I'm just like, I've got enough. I've earned so much money from the business. I'm working alongside it. I'm able to buy a house and then start operating from there. And, you know, this business, it doubles in revenue for the first 3 years consecutively. And all of a sudden, I'm sat on a big 6-figure business, just me and a whole load of automations, because I can't do it all myself. And it was crazy, because along that journey, I was still working in local government. And then I got a bit sick of that and went working in the third sector, in the voluntary sector, helping people back into work. And I was like, still out there, crazy enough to be working and doing lots of qualifications. During this time, I did qualifications in performance human nutrition, strength and conditioning. Then I started doing my football coaching badges, because I was just like, this is something interesting that I can do. Maybe one day I'll be able to give back. And you'll probably find out later that I actually use those badges today for a really, really good cause. But yeah, I then went from working with those unemployed people. They've been made redundant, a lot of them, just like I had a few years ago. So I'd been there. I could help them. I could help them see, you know, what industry do you want to go in? What kind of role do you want? Right. Let's build that confidence back up, because it's taken a bit of a knock because you've been let go. And now let's see, how can you communicate that confidence and that value in your strengths at interview? And I got a lot of these people back into work. And man, it felt good, because they came to see me after saying, you know what, I got the job. And you know what, you give me the permission to go out there and sell myself. You give me the faith and the optimism that I could do it. You fill me with hope, Lee. You know, you're doing some good work. That lit me up inside, made me happy.
Wow. And great, man. Great.
Yeah. And at this point, my son's born. So I'm like, I'm in a really happy place. And things are going really well. Business is going well. I decided to go and work in elite sport for a few months because all of a sudden these qualifications that I've got, I get contacted by a sports performance agency and they say, you know, we've got some interesting positions. How about you come and utilize your qualifications, get some experience in the world of elite sport? And I'm like, yeah, another challenge to go into, eh? So I had some really interesting times working with the elite development squad at Everton and the academy at Manchester City. And that was an amazing experience, but it didn't resonate with my values. I struggled a little bit watching those young kids gradually moving up through. But then at some point, like 3 of them would just be let go. You'd never see them again. It's a cutthroat world in elite sport. And yeah.
Yeah, Lee, that's good, man. What an amazing story, Lee, man. Amazing story, man. Starting up that entrepreneurial mindset, you know, trying to sell stuff in school, you know, have that hustle in you while growing up, and starting a business as well, you know, made that business into a 6-figure business, you know. But in that story, you know, I picked up something like, you know, like telling you about diversity, that you're not diverse enough, you know, to make it in the business world. You know, what did that really mean to you? You know, how did you take that statement?
Yeah, so how it was phrased at the time, and obviously you get a bit older and wiser to racism sometimes being overt, sometimes being covert, and sometimes just being there. And I'm not in a position to judge people, but I understood the principles of what he was saying. He was saying, pick a more diverse industry because it'll be easier work for you. And that objectively, he's right. I was going into an industry which really lacked diversity. And for that reason, it was harder for me to get into those markets, to get into those offices, to get into the places where the people who, you know, had a lot of influence in the market were. But that shouldn't be ultimately the reason why you should go for the safe option. I want to show that other diverse entrepreneurs, whether they be, you know, diverse by ethnicity, gender, neurodiverse, you can go into that market and, you know what, be the one who is the example for other people. Be the one who sticks the head above the water and says, you know what, I'm in this market and I don't look like this market, but guess what? I'm here. You can be here too if this is what you want to do. And that's a big thing for me, to be an example, because obviously then I was in the video game wholesaling market. It's a very, you know, male, white dominated market. That's the reality of the market. And ultimately I managed to dig my way in there and get myself into a place where I had influence. And if you look at my business now, I'm in the wellbeing industry. The wellbeing industry is not the place for young black men. It's just, wellbeing doesn't look like me if you're trying to get some images off Google. But hell, I'm going to be disruptive, curious, and go into the places where people say you shouldn't go, because I don't care for the rules and I'm not conforming to what society says. I'm going to go and do this my way and let it happen, let it be, and be iconoclastically myself. So that if you feel like this kind of person, you can say, well, if Lee can do it, then I can do it as well.
Absolutely, Lee, man. I love that, man. I love the story so far, Lee. But, you know, from the video game industry, you know, to the well-being industry, you know, how did that transformation come about? Because they are two separate worlds apart, aren't they?
Massive. So I think the biggest way to help people understand is that, firstly, there is a slight link between the businesses. Being in the tech world, you see how well-being is neglected, and it's very difficult to change that well-being in the tech world when you're inside the tech world. You need to step out of the tech world and work on it from outside. But really, it's been a long-term shift. So if we kind of hook back into the story, I lose the ability to walk in 2014, and all of a sudden, I ain't working in elite sports anymore because I'm stuck in a hospital bed, but I still have the video game business, and beautifully, it's digital. So my immune system has attacked the connective tissue of my joints. It's locked both my knees in place. It's caused my wrist to swell up to double the size, and it's my shoulders up by my ear, and I'm stuck in hospital. This happens over 5 days. Never been in hospital in my life, and all of a sudden, I'm seriously, seriously ill and in a lot of pain, and I'm in shock because I'm like, the hell do I process this? I've been healthy. I looked after myself. You know, my son's 18-month-old. My wife's 6 months pregnant, and I'm stuck in hospital. I can't move. I can't show myself. Can't eat properly. I can't even go to the toilet on my own. My independence is gone. And I'm like, whoa, I don't even know how to approach this at the minute. And as the shock wore off, the pain set in. They drained the fluid off my knees, and they started testing me to try and work out what had happened. And, you know, I felt despair. I felt frustration. And I just had to channel that and try and express it as healthy as I could. Couldn't suppress it and just leave it to, you know, cause me damage later. So I had to talk to people that come and visit me. My wife came every day helping me do basic things. The nurses were great, you know. When you're in that position, you feel like you've lost an awful lot because you suddenly have to ask permission and help to do all these things. And there was a point where I actually started to feel a bit of grief for my mobility, my physicality, my athletic ability as a young man. I just didn't know what life was going to hold for me. But at the same time, I realized that I needed to just let these negative emotions just like wash over me and come. At some point, I'd have that moment again where I was like, I was feeling all right and I could think about how to approach the future. And it took 2 weeks for that to happen, but I got moved up onto a long-term ward. And while I was there, I was on a ward with 3 old guys. I'm speaking to them. They were like, you know what, Lee? You're in a bad way, but guess what? This is just a start for you. You're going to be fine. You're going to be back up on your feet again. We're not. This is pretty much it for us, but you've got a whole lot of life to live. So start thinking about that because you've got a young family. You can't give up.
And that was something positive for you, yeah? That was something positive for you, right?
Yeah, so in that hospital bed was next to a window on the top floor of the hospital, and that window looked across the fields, across to the town where I grew up in Bolton. And I'd walked across that field a lot of times. And what I realised looking out over that field day after day is that I'd never been grateful for walking until I lost it. And I'd never been grateful, I'd not been grateful enough to the people who are now helping me. And the fact that, you know, I grew up in the UK, was born here, never had famine, conflict, environmental disaster. I'd never been homeless, never been hungry. I'd had free education, we're getting free healthcare. You know, I had opportunity to set up a business, to work in a lot of different industries, to meet some amazing people, to just live a life that really I've not faced true adversity. And even here, with my legs a mess, I've only lost such a little bit. Imagine if I was an orphan on the other side of the world where there wasn't the healthcare, there wasn't the support, I didn't have people around me, I didn't have a future. But here I am, being looked after. And I just that just flicked a switch in my head. It was like, Lee, you need to be realistic. You can probably get back on your feet. Like those guys are telling you. It's going to be a journey, but just accept where you are at the minute. You accept that you're not in a great place, but you're going to take ownership and get your health back. You're going to be proactive. You know, attack this disease as much as it's attacking you. Because ultimately, that's life's journey. Life's like an ECG. Like they're checking my heartbeat, it's going up and down, up and down. And at the minute, I'm down. But hell, I'm going back up again. I'm not going to flatline. I'm not dead. I'm living. So I was going to push on. And that's what I did. It took me 11 months to get back on my feet properly. But that 11 months was a struggle at times. It was a challenge at times. Spent a lot of time in pain, stiff, having to do rehab, physio, hydrotherapy. I had some problems with my spine and the way I was walking. I had to go back and fix that again. But through all that, it kind of gave me that fire. I wanted to help other people. And selling video games, it was paying for me to be and live a good life while I was ill. But it wasn't making me happy. It was a business, in some ways, fueled off proving people wrong. It wasn't a business fueled off helping other people and making me happy. So 11 months and I'm back walking again. I walk a mile and I'm like, what else can I do here? I need to set up a business which helps other people. And I decided to use the video game business. My daughter was born through all this. So I had 2 young children. I wanted to spend a lot of time with them before they went to school. So I stopped scaling the video game business and just kept it where it was, giving me a good amount of money to live with my children and experience a lot of different things. But during that period, I was like, started to build the framework of a company which could help people who also were in challenge, to help other entrepreneurs really take the health seriously, and to help entrepreneurs really anchor into the fact that your business is great. It's a vehicle for you to achieve something, but you need to remember what you want to achieve. And remember that your physical and mental health is your biggest asset in your business. You can't drive that vehicle that you build as a business if you're not well enough, if you've not got a GPS to know where you're going. You're not just going to set off on the journey and wonder. And that ultimately is what I built today. We essentialize, obviously, we have a coaching side for entrepreneurs and the workplace wellbeing side for bigger companies.
Wow, Lee, man, that's great, man. I love what you're doing so far, man. It's good, man, because we as entrepreneurs and trying to hustle, trying to get things done, even a guy that has got a 9 to 5 as well, we tend to forget one important part of our lives, which is our well-being, our mental health, well-being, taking care of ourselves, personal care and all that. We just tend to neglect that angle of our life, because like you now, you thought it was going to be, it was going to be rosy all through, but you went through that phase, and, thankfully you came out of that phase. Now you set up a company that help guys, out there that are trying to neglect, their personal well-being as well, which is greatly love that, But how does your company work with people like that? How do you carry out your activities?
So the entrepreneur coaching arm of what we do, ultimately we take entrepreneurs on a process. So we start and really dig into why you do what you do. So what's your purpose? What's your mission? Why does your business exist? And then start to look at why do you exist? So that portion, really looking at purpose. There's quite a lot of questions in there, questions that you might not have been asked before, questions that really dig deep into why you want what you want. Because when we understand what our why is, like our proper true why inside, all of a sudden you can pretty much do anything. But also you get and start to understand why you behave the way that you do, why you have the feelings that you do, why you're suddenly limiting yourself, and what beliefs are holding you back. But more importantly, you get direction and you get momentum in that direction. You start to be like, this is my journey. This is where I want to go. And this is, I'm going to build the business to make it this way. And then once we've got that real clarity, that real direction, we do the health coaching section where we look at your sleep, your mindset, your movement, and your nutrition. Because ultimately, for this journey that you're going on as an entrepreneur, you need energy. You need vitality. As an entrepreneur, you can't hustle if there's nothing in the tank. You need jet fuel. What you don't want is a lot of crude oil, because you're not going to create an amazing business on crap fuel. You've got to get your energy right. So we look at them, we start to help them make small changes to the sleep, to the nutrition, and start to have them experiment with these things. So ultimately, they start to realize that I only need to make a lot of small changes. I don't need to go and completely change what I'm eating totally. I don't need to suddenly treat sleep like it's the most important thing in the world every single day. But I do need to start to look after myself a little bit better, start to work out what fuels me, what makes me feel good when I eat it, and what makes me feel like crap, and eat less of that so I feel better, so I can do more work, more good work, more deep work. And then finally, we take them into the third module, which we kind of look at psychology. So we dig to mindset and habits, start to really look at why do you have the feelings and thoughts that you do? Why do you act that way? Why do you get triggered by this person? We start to look at that and think, what beliefs are inside you that are making you be like this? What habits and little things that you do, what's holding you back from becoming this success that you want to be, from reaching your potential, from growing this and scaling this business to something that's bigger than you, that really goes and changes the world? And once we get those 3 modules done, you've got suddenly like a roadmap. You know where you're going. You've got the energy to go up that mountain, and then you've got your base camp set, and everything that might have been holding you back, you're ready to take on those obstacles that come. You're going to find the opportunities when they come to you. You're going to be in the right place, the right mindset for everything that comes. And then we almost look at where you want to be in the future and plan it back. So you've got actionable steps to take every month towards the business and the person that you want to become.
Wow, Lee, man, that's great, man. Love that, man. I'm just caught up, just caught up in your story and your journey, man. It's good, man, and it's also good as well what you do for entrepreneurs as well, which is helping them look after themselves, man. Which is a great deal as well, But Lee, in doing all this, setting up your business and all that, how do you? Because on this show as well, I tend to talk about branding as well, how you create the brand, how you brand your business, how you grow your business, as to say, I tend to look at that as well, because in growing whatever you're doing, and which is your well-being, coaching and all that, in growing that, which is kind of like different from, someone that's an into maybe like a marketing business, which is different, How have you managed to grow, essentialize, into what it is today?
Yeah, so it really started initially with identifying that target market, starting to realize what their pain points were, starting to realize what problems they faced and what I could solve. So instead of looking like so often, like a lot of entrepreneurs do, on what the features of what they do are, I actually was looking at the benefits and the impact, that what's in it for my client, what are they currently struggling with? And then I kind of built an avatar. So I knew who I was marketing to. But I was also very clever knowing that utilizing my network and utilizing social media to start to identify people who were in this position, how they talked, where they hung out, and what groups they were part of. So I could start to see and understand, yeah, some of them are like me, but some of them are a bit different in different industries. They use different terminology and they kind of feel a different way. But obviously the branding around Essentialize is that ultimately to grow a business, there's only a few essential things that you need to do really well. There's an awful lot of trivia out there, so much noise. You can ignore most of that and just really focus on what matters. Because again, the whole idea of Essentialize is if you do a few things really well, really find out who your customer is, who needs your service, who wants your product, who is it essential to? Because to them, it's essential. They'll buy it. They'll buy into it. They'll actually buy into it so much that they become your tribe. They will advertise it and market it for you. They'll give feedback and testimonials. They'll refer customers. So I get a lot of referrals. That's a big part of how my business is now built off referral. And it's because I give people a solution and it's really interactive. It's pretty deep, but it takes people on a journey they want to talk about once they've finished it. And what they actually end up doing is influencing other people to want to come and go on that journey with me as well. And that's massive because it means I don't need a ridiculous advertising budget. It means I don't need to try and hook loads of people in from a lot of different sectors. Now, most of my marketing is done by my previous clients. And that works really well. But behind the scenes, I do a lot of, personal branding stuff to ensure that my profile increases during this time. And I ensure that the business is linked into that. So I have a greater platform for when things do grow, because I want to make even more of an impact. There's only so many clients that I can take personally. So as we look to grow this, I need other people who completely resonate with the way I do things and are able to deliver this framework in a way which I feel happy with. And obviously, we're now a year into Essentialize. I've just been shortlisted and finalized for 2 awards, which is, it's recognition that it's working.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's pride and testament to the work I've been doing. And for so many new business owners, what you really need to do is find out where you can bring some value, what your strengths are, what you enjoy doing, and what you can monetize. And in the middle of those four circles is what you should be doing and where you bring the value. Do that, and you'll find that you can do the things that you don't like doing in the business because you enjoy the thing that you do. You'll be doing something you're strong at, so it come naturally. You'll be doing something that brings value, so other people talk about you and you'll feel good, and you'll find something that you can monetize. So you will make enough money to start to leverage other people's strengths and skills in the areas of your business where you don't bring as much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's great, man. That's a great idea, man, and a great step to take as well. And I was about to talk about your awards, and how you felt, about being nominated for those awards as well. But going back to how you've grown your business and how you're building your brand, the one ingredient I can pick from there is relationships. I've talked about this in my previous podcast as well. Is a big thing for me. I always talk about it, on all my shows, because I feel that, without the right relationships, without the right people in your circle, without building that honest true friendship, in your business, I don't think you would able to grow as much as you want, because you made mention about, now your business is all about reference. People just reference you and you talk about you, and you get businesses from them as well. In saying all this, when it comes to relationships in business, how important is that to you?
Yeah, it's massive. So if we look at it from two sides, Kez, firstly, the relationships with my clients, I take them through, and you have in a coaching capacity, you build a relationship with someone, you're working with them to help them get the best out of themselves, to start to move towards their potential, to get clear on the fact that all the answers they need are inside. The small changes they need to make, they can do. So you're their supporter, you're their ally, you're walking on that journey with them, guiding them, helping them, and really just encouraging them to go on. So what happens is you do get into each other's lives a little bit. And that's ultimately how, you build clients, and you give them the permission to go out there and smash it. And they then see you as someone who's actually done something for them, even when most of the time I don't do that much. I just help them get the best out of them. And if you look at it on the other side, I collaborate with other businesses quite a lot. I've built relationships with other businesses so that when I need to deliver something, if I need more people, if I need someone to deliver something on a specific area, I've got someone who I've built a business relationship with that I can pass the work to, that I know and trust. I've built relationships with other business owners who refer me clients, but I'll refer them clients because you've built those relationships. And when they say, ultimately, your network is your net worth, well, that's true if you've got authentic relationships with people. And obviously in today, you have to go and find out about those people who resonate with you, those people who have similar values in business. They will share. You will be able to do work together that's bigger than the work you can do on your own. And, in a world where there's lots of smaller, agile, micro businesses, solopreneurs, and SMEs, you come together and you can make more impact if you work with others. That's building relationships. That ultimately is what really drives the business world. Because in the bigger scheme of things, people actually buy from other people. They don't buy from a business, so to speak. And if you have that personal, authentic brand behind the business, and your business goes out and is consistent across all its communications, people start to think the business is you, you are the business, and you can actually step away and the business will still be that character that you are. Even as you grow it and scale it, it'll have those values. So relationships are absolutely vital. And we kind of see, unfortunately, modern marketing sometimes suggests, just, spam loads of people with some lead generation. You'll get a few people who say, yeah. Build relationships first. Then people be asking for your services. You don't need to cold call them.
Absolutely. Like, I take all you're saying, I take all you're saying now, and I totally agree with you, man, 100%. Because now I'm like, have a podcast show, where I interview guys like you. And, in the beginning, people were always asking me and telling me, okay, oh, you're going into podcasting. How you gonna make money? How you gonna,
Yeah.
you got a 9 to 5 job, you got a family, and you're doing this on the side as well. How's that gonna be paying for other things? But after being on the show with few guests, yeah, I later realized that you know what, the first thing is why I'm doing this, because I'm doing it because I love talking to people. One, it's a passion for me. I just want to just be in this environment, and I sort of made a decision to just forget about the money first, and build the relationships that I need.
Yep.
Build my audience, community, the tribe, have them on my side. Now you reached out to me, that you want to come on the show, which is great. Now we are, building that relationship now, spoken to
Yep.
you once before the show, I love what you do. I love your message. I love your brand. I love the fact that, you're helping guys out there, trying to get them figure their why as well, and in a way push them, above whatever they can achieve as well, so which is good, so I always say to people, you know what, it's not always about the money, when the money will come, it's good, but like you said, when you find your why, when you find your why you're doing this, things will definitely fall into place, and now talking about monetization, Lee, as a business owner, and as a brand builder as well, what are the signals, and when you think is the right time to monetize, and the right time to, I've been doing this for a while now, this is the right time to just, start monetizing, to say. But we all know that, if you're building a brand or a business, the brand can only be there, when you make money. That business has to make money at some point, So with your experience and all that, when you think is the right time to say, okay, I can start monetizing this part of the business now, and I can start doing this now, when do you think is the right time to do that?
Because I charge for business advice. That's monetization for you right there. So yeah, it's completely dependent on the business. To be kind of take my video game business, it was monetized straight away. It was product, high demand products, quick turnover of stock. This business took a while. I had to build and pre-launch for 6 months of not really making much by way of monetization. But you have to build a presence nowadays. It's a very, very challenging and competitive market out there. And if you're selling a product, quite possibly you may get in there, but there's so much there now that's being created, content-wise, product-wise. You're going to be in a challenging market. Almost anything that you have as a business idea has already been done somewhere else. And if it doesn't exist, for most things, it's because it's been tried before and the market's not been ready for it. And the market might be ready now. You might be in the right place at the right time. And the truth is, for a lot of entrepreneurs, they were in the right place at the right time. That's why they're so successful. There's not like a magic secret sauce, but entrepreneurial is a science. There's a hell of a lot of luck involved. And that's something that tends to get overlooked, as well as the fact that a lot of entrepreneurs have done an awful lot of work before people started to hear about them. But in terms of monetization, it's very dependent. You need to get to a point where ultimately you have something that brings value that's enough for other people to consider putting some money behind it. And for a podcast, it's challenging. There's over 1 million podcasts at the moment, but at the same time, the average amount of episodes for those 1 million podcasts is 6.7 episodes. So there's probably 800,000 podcasts that have got 10 episodes. And they're not going to be monetized because they've not been consistent. However, a podcast like this, where you've been consistent and you've continued, podcasts are notoriously difficult to monetize because the people who are monetizing podcasts have been doing it for 10 years and they're now making some significant money from it. And that's consistency. But holy crap, that pays off because they were early adopters. They've been podcasting for a long, long time. And they've been podcasting enough to get into the ears of enough people for it to, to be something new. Now, a lot of people are starting a podcast for reasons of extra marketing, for reasons of extra branding, and for reasons to just get the sound on the airwave and make more noise. Those podcasts will come and go. Podcasts where people are building genuine relationships and bringing insights and value organically through story are going to end up becoming monetizable in the future because it's a medium that's got a low barrier to entry. People from around the world, even with minimal internet signal, can download a podcast and listen to the audio from a very simple device. You don't have that in a world where, half the world's got a smartphone, but the other half doesn't. And they can't all be watching Instagram and YouTube. And that's the beauty of podcasting, is it gets into a lot of ears. But yeah, obviously your business, you're going to have to monetize it at some point. Otherwise, in a lot of ways, it's a hobby if you don't have a plan to make that happen in the future. But you need to decide and get to a point where you're very, very consistent, you're very, very clear, and you've got a strategy in place to make it happen. If you try and monetize it with that in mind, you're highly likely to succeed.
Yeah, Lee, absolutely, man. Nice one, a good one. But you're doing all this now, Lee. You're busy. You're on the radio. You're everywhere. And now you're laughing. Yeah, it's true. I can say that because I see you on social media. You're killing it. But now your business is well-being. Taking care of yourself. Now you're a very busy guy, Lee. These days. How do you play that now? In terms of looking after yourself. Having in mind that there was a time when you couldn't walk. How do you take care of yourself these days? And in a sense, what do you do to relax these days?
Yeah, so what I do is I schedule my days, I prioritize my sleep, and I make sure that I eat well and take breaks, get outside and get some sun, go walking. So I've built it into my life, and it's as important to have those breaks where I disconnect. Is it as important as my business meetings, as important as my radio show, as important as my podcast guesting, and as important, if not the most important thing that I do every day, is to have a good morning and evening routine where I have self-care, I look after myself, I meditate, I read, I listen to 10 minutes of a podcast, get on AskDproS, 10 minutes every day. You've got a whole week's worth of content and you'll get insight from every 10 minutes. That's the tip for the day. Get on it, listeners. And just making sure that I don't have control over a lot of the appointments in the middle, but I just make sure that I build my well-being in all around that. Because you can't be a hypocrite in business. Like, I am very busy, but I've worked for years on optimizing my energy so I can go out there and I can give it this all. That's the same thing that I now give to the clients that I coach, and they see me all over the place, but still able to coach them with such energy. And they're like, well, if he can do it like this and he does this much, I want to do that much, because what the heck, what can I do? And I become an example for my business by looking after myself. And then they realize that, I'm 35 and didn't even think you were that old. And it's like, you have to, in business, be congruent. If you're going to be a leader in well-being, like I want to be, then I need to be well. I need to be authentically well and actually show up and have the energy to continue doing what I'm doing, to speak on the stages, to be the coach, and to be an example for other practitioners. And that's important to me. So I build it in, I prioritize it. I have business meetings and I have meetings with myself.
Yeah, Lee, man, I love that, man. It's good. It's great. It's great, man. It's good, man. But it all comes to you now, and I've asked this question on previous on my podcast as well. Like, someone comes to you and say, Lee, I love what you're doing. I'm seeing you everywhere. It's great. I love your vibe, your energy. It's good, man. I love it, man. I also want to do what you're doing as well. What would be your advice to me? What would you say to that person?
My advice would be, everyone's got something to give. try to think about where you would bring the most value to other people. So that might be through your qualifications. It might be through the experience that you lived through. For example, illness, challenges, trauma, your childhood. Look at your industrial experience and see what you've done in terms of work, how you could bring some value there. So for me, I coach entrepreneurs. I do employee wellbeing. I coach a disability football team. If we go back to, I've got those coaching badges. I now coach a disability football team to give back. I'm director of a public health body. So I work with strategy to try and get health inequalities, get opportunities of health for disadvantaged people and communities that don't engage with health services as much. And that's what I give back. You've all got something to give back. You've all got experience that you've lived with. And you might be coaching, you might be mentoring, you might be volunteering. But when you give back and you find a place to give back from what you've done through your experience, you'll feel amazing. Because as a human being, when you give the gift of your experience, your skills, your strengths to other people, it lights you up inside. You'll be fulfilled. You'll feel satisfied. You'll feel like you're leaving a legacy bigger than yourself. And that's just great. And whether it's working with kids, working with disabled people, even working with elderly people, there's something that you can do to make a difference in the world. So I'll say to you, ask yourself some questions about what change you want to make. What would you want an MBE for? What would you want the Queen to give you a medal for? That's probably what you need to go and do. And everyone has a passion. Everyone has a group of people they'd really like to help. That's what you need to go and do.
Greatly. I like that, man. Love that, Lee. Great. You just mentioned something about legacy now, Lee. And when this is all done, and we're all going to live someday, and what would you want to be remembered for?
So I want my legacy to be he helps 1 million people, adults and children across the world, to live happier and healthier lives.
Good.
That's simple.
That. Yeah, good. I love greatly. So someone wants to get in touch with Lee, where's the best place for them to get in touch with you? And I know you're buzzing on LinkedIn, apart from LinkedIn, where's the other place for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best places would be my websites. So that's essentialize.co.uk and leechambers.org. And on both of those websites, you can find my services, my blog, and you can find all my socials on those websites too.
Yeah, Lee, nice one, man. Absolutely, man. Lee, it's been a nice show. I love what you're doing. You're doing a great job out there. I pray, you have the strength, to carry on, and to keep giving your best, giving your 100, and take care of yourself as well, and
yep.
And it's good, Lee. It's good to have this kind of conversations, talk like this. I'm trying to build that relationship as well, which is what this show is all about as well, trying to build friends, close friends, have that circle, and I'm trying to have people that you go to for certain things, like you mentioned, if you want to do certain things, there are people that you call and say, what, I need this thing done, can you do it? And the answer is readily available for you, So Lee, it's good, man. It's good. I really want this relationship to grow strong, and I'm grateful, happy that you came on the show after scheduling back and forth, but and we were able to find time to have this conversation. I'm really grateful for your time as well. Thanks for that.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be sharing a stage soon.
Good. Yeah. So that's it. That's it. Good.